Morning. Welcome to the 73rd meeting of the Municipal Skating Rink Building Committee, March 28, 2024. In the room, we have members Frank French, Steve Sella, Tom Caputo, and myself. And then we have Jake and Don White from CHA. And Tom, how many people do we have on the committee?
Online, we have Anthony Ferrante, Anne Marie Mahoney, Dan Halston, Danelle Long, Catherine Oates, and Bill Shea, and a member of the public.
7, 8, 9, 10. So it sounds like 11. I don't see Dante yet. All right.
Correct.
I haven't heard him yet. Okay, so we have 2 sets of meeting notes that we'll approve first.
Yep.
Jake?
Yep. I sent them around a little while ago. It is from 3/13. Uh, 2/29 and 3/13. I had one comment from Anne Marie, voicing concern about budget, I believe it was. I copy and pasted that directly in there.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, we're all set.
Yep, and that's 3/13 and 2/29.
So we have a motion to approve March 3/13, which would be March 13, and
And 2/29.
February 29.
Yep.
Got it. Anne Marie, second.
So moved. Second, whatever you want.
Okay, Tom, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under what Meg Moriarty told me, when we vote on something and we're in a hybrid meeting, we need to do a roll call vote. So we'll do them in alphabetical order like we have. Tom Caputo.
Yes.
Anthony Ferrante.
Yes.
Frank French.
Yes.
Mark Haley, yes. Dan Halston.
Yes.
Danelle Long.
Yes.
Anne Marie Mahoney.
Yes.
Meg Moriarty. Absent. Dante Mozzioli. Catherine Oates.
Yes.
Steve Sala.
Yes.
William Shea.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, figure out how to do that. So this nearly, we only have 10 of the 12.
Yep.
All right. We need to go through some bills and then we need to discuss some budget issues. Start at the bottom. If I have a list here. Can we put this list up? You have it, Jake?
I don't have that list.
Which are you looking at?
It's the summary list, Tom, that I sent yesterday for.
327 summary list, Tom?
Yep.
Can you bring that up for us?
Can everyone see that? Not yet. How about there?
Yeah,
There you go.
yes,
Yeah. Can you center that a little bit, Tom? I think it's okay. So we're gonna start at the bottom. Belmont Electric Light, that is for the electric light for the trailer for the month of February. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Frank French, second.
Frank French, second. All in favor?
aye,
Okay, Tom Caputo,
Yes.
Anthony Ferrante,
Yes.
Frank French,
Yes.
Mark Haley, yes. Dan Halston,
Yes.
Danelle Long,
Yes.
Anne Marie Mahoney. Meg Moriarty's absent, Dante's absent. Catherine Oates,
Yes.
Steve Sala,
Yes.
Steve Shea.
yes.
Okay.
Mark, can we do the roll call? Can we approve them all and do one roll call?
Yeah, we can, if we want, yes, we can. If anybody, though, we should do a straw poll. If anybody wants to vote against or has questions or wants to abstain from anyone, we should pull that out. But you could discuss all of them and then get a motion on all of it.
Thank you.
As long as somebody wants a variation, they can ask for it.
I was just doing what I was told by one of our chairs.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that better. Thank you. All right, CHA bill for February, $30,000. Motion to approve, Tom?
Well,
No,
why don't you just see if there's any questions on all of them?
Motion approved, then I'll open for discussion.
Okay, motion to approve.
Frank French,
Frank second.
do I have any comments from the committee? Just raise your hand. Hearing none, seeing none.
So Mark, the motion's gonna be to approve all of it, so why don't you go, okay,
So we've just approved CHA, but we
Okay.
haven't voted on it. Is that correct?
there has to be a vote tied to the motion.
Okay,
So I would say, why don't you go through all of it and explain all of them, and
So
then
we
you'll have
won't look
one
for a
motion. to
motion.
approve all of
got it. All right. Geotech Services, which is really environmental services from McPhail, and it's related to the testing and oversight during the oil spill. And that's for $9,306.36.
And that gets billed directly to us, right? As opposed to going through
TGAS.
CHA or TGAS, right?
That is correct.
Yes, in this case, they're working directly for the owner.
Okay.
Contract is with the town.
Okay.
Any other comments on that?
Oh, yeah, oh, I can't see this.
Mark, I'm sorry, I just joined you. I couldn't get a connection. Sorry, I'm late.
But we didn't hear you, we figured you weren't on yet. Okay, so Muzzy, we're going through invoices. We're gonna go through all of them, and then we're gonna vote, have a global vote on all at the same time. So all we're doing, if we agree or disagree, I want to hear it, and then we may pull that one out. Just to give you some update on the McPhail, is I don't have a report yet, but I got a verbal. Is all the testing to date has been below reportable, so the site is not reportable under the Massachusetts contingency plan, which is a plus. And we've disposed of materials from the site that we'll come up with, I think in a minute, for payment.
Okay, what about the water? Is that still a disposable thing, or we can drain that? I know that we talked about it yesterday. We couldn't drain that water down because it had to be reported and checked on. Is that still the case? So we don't have to spend a lot of time dewatering that site, or what's our plan to get that water?
Dante, we're doing the invoices, and we'll get to those issues, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Mark Emery has a hand raised.
Oop,
Emery,
Anne Marie.
Hi, Mark. Just a quick question. So by paying this, are we assuming responsibility for this oil spill?
No,
Okay,
oh, in fact, I'm trying to capture all the costs, Anne Marie, and put them
Yeah.
in one, and I've already discussed with Skanska, CHA, and Dorenzo JDC to have a joint meeting to discuss the resolution of the cost.
okay. All right, just
But I
checking. Thank
I
you.
wanted all the reports in first, Anne Marie.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, geotech review. This was working with Chris Erickson from McPhail to close out some of the geotech items for the earthwork or site work package. So that's $1,305.
Motion to approve.
No, does anyone have a comment? Sorry,
Question,
sorry,
comments?
Dante. We're looking for
Okay,
comments first.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm
Any
in
comment?
the car, so it's a little disconnect. I'm sorry.
No problem. Do we have any comments?
No.
No. Okay. T-Gas invoice through February 2024, $263,537.22 ongoing design. Do I have any comments?
How many months is this? Is this?
Month, one
Just-
month.
just 1 month, and this-
He bills
this-
$263 a month.
Typical monthly draw.
That's correct.
Has CHA approved this?
I've gone through it, yep,
Thank you.
Yep. Okay,
that was Don White.
get Don White. Balance of pre-construction services. Skanska billed us $83,000 in pre-construction services, which was $119,000. And we paid 83 previously. He's billing for the remainder of that amount, which is $35,814. So it's in his original cost for pre-construction services. Any comment? Hearing none. We'll move on to the next one. CM services through 2/29. This one I need some explanation on, Don. So we'll pull that up.
Mark, this is Mike Morrison. I'm here as well. Sorry I was late. So if anyone has any questions, just want to let
Thank
you
you.
know.
So requisition number 3, Mike, is Don's looking it up.
Yep.
Could you give the committee an update on what that's in that requisition number 3?
Yep. So included in that requisition is, so of the 334, there's 216,000 of demolition costs. So that is just the completion of the demolition. That's base services demolition. So that's included in there. There's associated Scanson cost makes up the majority of it, with the exception of we had a hold for we had some temp fencing rework at our gate. So there's $1,200 for reworking our fence. We had to make that wider so the trucks could swing without impacting traffic. So really, in a nutshell, it's $215,000 for demo, $2,000 for some gate adjustments we made to ease up some of the work on Concord Ave, and then the rest is Skanska services.
Agreed, Don?
Yeah, I think it was Tony. Tony went through it.
I went through it too.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? Hearing none? Okay, so Tom, we're gonna make a motion for, do we need an amount in this motion?
No, you can just approve as read into the records,
Okay.
the record.
Make the motion.
I can't see it, but yeah, so I'll move that we approve the following invoices as read into the record. Yeah, from not Belmont Line, right?
Belmont later.
Right, for CHA, McPhail Associates, T-Gas, two for McPhail Associates and 2 for Skanska, as read into the record.
Do I have a second?
Frank French, second.
Frank second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
And now we gotta do
now I gotta go through it. Tom Caputo.
yes.
Anthony Frente.
Yes.
Frank French.
Yes.
Mark Haley, yes. Dan Halston.
Yes.
Danell Long.
Yes.
Anne Marie Mahoney.
Yes.
Dante Muzzioli.
Yes.
Catherine Oates.
Yes.
Stephen Sala.
Yes.
William Shea.
Yes.
Okay. Tom, is Meg not on still?
That is correct. She is not on.
Okay, I just don't want to miss her. All right. That takes us through that first part of the meeting. Thank you. And we'll figure out how to do this better as we go forward. All right. I'd like the committee just to listen for a little bit is some of the things we've been doing. And then we're going to get into some VE discussions, value alternatives, I'll call them. But first, I'd like to get an update from Tom Kazunas. What's the status of the permit drawings, Tom?
Permit drawings for which
Permit.
packages?
For the rink we're trying to build, which was going to be a foundation permit, a building permit for just the metal building, concrete, and site work, which is what you and I talked to Ara and Glenn about. What's the status?
Ted, I'll ask Ted to report on the status of those. They have not been presented to the building department yet for permit.
Okay?
They're ongoing. Ted is on.
Ted, where do we stand?
Good morning. We have some structural coordination remaining with the measure on a couple of items that need to be taken care of. And we're getting those documents out, I think, early next week.
Okay. Well, that's the next question to Mike Morrison. Earth site work contract. What are we doing? What don't we have to get that out on the street?
So the things that are missing from what I understand to be a complete package would be the earthwork spec, and any other associated specs. So we have all the utility specs related to site work that will dictate how we do the underground utilities. So those are in hand, the paving. So it's really the earthwork, which kind of dictates and jives with what type of materials we can use where. So that's one key piece. There's a piece to pretty much anything beyond the limit of work on Concord Ave. So any of the work in Concord Ave, we're looking to get kind of shown on documents so we can put those into the procurement of the site subcontractor. So that's the attachment of the water line. And then there's a couple items that we discussed in some of our coordination meetings with McPhail related to the drainage on the west side by the soccer field. So one of the areas we're looking at to kind of lose on-site material is that wall that is going to be formed by the foundation wall on the soccer field side of the ice rink. So as part of that, we're trying to lose some of the on-site material against that wall, but the on-site material is really, it's clay, it's porous, and you really want to you don't want to limit water from getting to the drain, which is at the bottom of that. So one of the things we talked about in the last meeting was adding a very simple, I guess, it's a mirror drain as a manufacturer, but really something to allow us to backfill with some of the on-site clay, but to get the water from the surface to the drain that's at the foundation wall. So that there's that piece as well that we're looking to get some coordination. And there's other minor things, but I wouldn't call them. I would say those are the ones that we'd want to capture in the buy. And anything different on the retaining wall, Mark, which I'll turn over to you at the north side of the site. But the
retaining wall, as we talked, will be deleted, and we're going to work with a site work contractor to come up with a more cost-effective solution. But also, you left out, Mike, we need a pole at Concord Avenue for a data drop to get to the rink, and the pre-data lines going to the rink to the IDF room. These need to be shown in the drawings, correct?
So the civil drawings have that shown. So
As far as I know, from our deliverables, everything is shown.
The civil drawings show the electrical line and there's some coordination, Mark, that we talked about of whether or not that pole wants to be closer or further away from the gate, which I think wouldn't prevent us from bidding it. It's really the civil drawings show it. The site electrical drawings we'd have to look at.
We just need the earthwork spec from McPhail, as far as I know, to get the thing out to bid. Everything else is set.
The 12-inch line is not, they're still showing the 10-inch line connection, Ted.
Last we talked about this a week or two ago, we were going to send it out the way it was.
So we talked about this.
Is now telling me that they don't want to send it out as it is because they want to make sure they capture all the costs.
So what I said was, we can put it out as it is, but we're going to be bidding plans and specs with the exception of the items that, are typical in our contract. So some of our logistics coordination and things we need to facilitate access around the site that wouldn't typically be shown on the drawings, obviously we're going to buy that. But for the permanent construction, we're going to be bidding plans and specs as we have them today. And then we'd carry an allowance for the things we just described to then deal with cost as, once we get a set of drawings that shows the connection to the water line in the street, we'll have an allowance set aside. It'll be an educated allowance and we'll move forward with that. But, there's pros and cons with that approach as well. So that was what we discussed. We can put it out. We just don't want to author the work. So we can put it out with this is what we have right now. This is what we're getting. So no drain at the foundation wall, retaining wall in, but we'll exclude it. And the water line connecting to the 10 on the floor as is shown in the drawing. So we could bid that and then we'll carry allowances off the side. And then, and there's also site prep as well that needs additional coordination. So the site prep drawings, they still, I'm going to get into too much detail, so cut me off if I am, but the site prep drawings are still based on some of the enabling demo. So it still shows keeping a lot of the sewer infrastructure that's now being replaced. So, what we've done is we've identified all the structures that need to be removed for the building shift. We've got it marked up, but we really should have some plans showing how that looks. That's another thing we're working on. So,
Okay, so at CM, you will try to coordinate that with, through CHA back to TGAS, correct?
yep, we've
But wait,
distributed.
wait. Again, I understood that everything was ready on our documents, save a couple of minor items that we're carrying allowances for. What I'm hearing now is that there's another 2 or 3 weeks worth of coordination before the site package goes out. That's a very different plan than we had 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So
That's exactly what I'm trying to get on the table, Ted. Between
We-
you,
we- what I
between you
understood
and,
is that the site
between
package
you
was
and
going out 2
Skanska and
weeks ago.
CHA, nothing moves. All we ever do is kick the can down the road.
What I understood as the architect of the project is that the drawings were going out as they were. That was the work plan 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's what we were doing. I can't control when the drawings go out, but that's what we were doing.
I don't see why we can't buy a connection to the 12-inch line as we talked about it since months ago. If that got on there, I think he can go out with what, I think most of what we need. But if we have a chance to get everything in the package, we should get it, because then we don't have exposure as a committee to additional cost or our allowances. I don't like to have allowances if we don't have to.
Okay, well, what we understood is that we were going out with the drawings that we have. If we need to make more revisions, we will do that. But as I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, that takes a couple of weeks. So I'm happy to do that, but we've been issuing documents and assuming it was ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
With minor things here and there, and that's what allowances are for. But
we can also, Ted, this
I mean,
is Don White.
we can
do
keep
an
going.
addendum. We can get the drawings out, and Mike,
it should have been out 3 weeks ago, and then, yeah, addendum, we're fine. We can do addendum.
I mean, typically we do an addendum with almost every package. You have to. Things change, questions get asked, and then you reissue some new information. To the extent it can be just a verbal description, that's even better. You don't have to update the drawings.
I mean, okay, so I will agree with Ted that that was the discussion we had 2 weeks ago, that we're gonna push that out to bid. When we're creating this bid package and I'm trying to buy the scope that's on the drawings, there are things that, I mean, I could keep going with items, it's risky, and I was essentially marking up the drawings to try to buy stuff that wasn't there. So that's when I said time out, and I talked to you guys. I was like, if we go down this route and I have my markups and I try to buy my markups to what I believe the intent is, I don't know if that helps the project, because now I buy the markups and then the drawings show up and I bought something different than what the engineer is putting on the plans. So now we have to reconcile that cost. So the things we're talking about aren't things that.
But I guess, Mike, I understand what you're saying, but I would say to you is that at least we get a contractor on board and start digging holes and putting material in place. And addenda can wash out those little details of 12-inch or 10-inch or some, foundation drain, and there's an allowance there, and maybe there's bucks that come with it, but we get somebody on site.
My response to that whole piece is, what we're talking about is this earthwork package was supposed to hit the street in October. It's now February. Well, it's February, now March, and we're still asking for pieces that are typical in an earthwork package. Like an earthwork spec should be in an earthwork package. Landscape drawings and details should be included with an earthwork package. So you can coordinate heights of subgrade. Are we hauling off the topsoil? Are we keeping it and amending it? All these things need to be part of the earthwork package. We don't have answers for any of those things. So there's no landscape spec, there's no landscape drawings, there's no direction on how we're handling the stockpiled soil. So, if we're gonna have the earthwork guys stockpile the stripped loam, it's different than if we're gonna have them strip it, put it in a truck and send it out. So
Mike,
as I was going through the scope and I'm writing these things, so now I'm defining this stuff. I'm defining this work based on drawings that we should have had in October.
Mike, Don White, can you, Christian, and myself spend an hour tomorrow? I can't do it today, and get these issues all ironed out so we have a package on the street early next week.
Yes.
I mean,
I guess what I would
don't think
also
that's
say
real.
is,
I don't think that's a reality. And the package that can be on the
Well, at
street.
least we can identify what is not ready and target that. If it's something that can be sent out subsequently as an addendum, we'll do that. But let's at least have a meeting, put everything on the table, see how we're going to account for everything. I agree with you. You have to have an earthwork spec. You can't bid this without that.
So Don, I can send you what we have, which identifies the assumptions we were trying to make in this buy. Those assumptions are what we need answers to. We can send you that today. So that's,
All right.
these are the things that we had that we were trying to coordinate to. And we were trying to kind of fill those gaps. Like we're to say this RTA is based on hauling this surplus loan. This RTA is based, so we're just gonna have a list of quals. We're gonna buy a list of qualifications, and we're gonna hold allowances, and we're gonna move forward. But that's risky. That's more expensive on the tail end than buying everything up front with a defined package that you won't as a
You,
subcontractor.
Christian, and I will go through this tomorrow, and we'll try and get this cleaned up as best we can to get a package issued.
I'm open all day, Don. Just let me know.
All right, I got
I
a
would
couple
try
of
and
meetings
get-
early. I'll set something up for later in the
Don,
morning.
Don, I am not available tomorrow. I can try to be around. We'll figure something out, but I'll send you everything today that I have,
Yep.
and we can facilitate something tomorrow.
Send it to Christian, so.
Yep.
Mark, Dante has his hand raised.
I have just one quick question. Is the wall, the retaining wall that we've discussed, is that removed from that package? Because we talked a lot about making a swale to try to save some additional cost on that. Is that on that plan or is that not on that plan? I think it should be removed and we should come up with an alternative there because I thought we were trying to save that as a cost bin. I don't know if the new plan or the existing plan has made, provisions for that.
The current plans still show the wall, but I think, Dante, what we're saying is we were just gonna exclude that from the award. So we're gonna tell the site work contractors not to include that wall in what they were pricing.
Okay, good. And does the committee agree that wall should be excluded, Mark?
I certainly do.
the engineers
do
don't.
Can I hear it? Can I
Gentlemen,
hear comments from the rest of the committee? This is a wall that extends about 100 feet along the railroad tracks to the northwest corner of the rink. And it's really a grade separation. And the railroad tracks are a stone slope, and all I propose we just carry that stone slope on the inside of the fence to get us the width we need for the fire engines.
And I totally agree.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee?
Frank French, I agree with that too.
Okay,
If we can make it up with
I don't
grade and
think-
eliminate the wall.
We don't.
Makes sense.
I don't think we need to vote on that. That was decided before.
Okay, perfect. As long as it's not included on the bid package. That's all I was trying to clarify. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you.
Christian, what's the status of the earthwork spec?
I'm waiting to hear back from McPhail. I just emailed again.
Okay.
So I'll
So are
try,
we-
if I don't
so-
hear anything by the
so-
end of this meeting, I'll give him a call.
So Christian, we're coordinating the civil engineer now, the geotech engineer now?
That's correct.
No, you're not coordinating him, Ted. You're getting him to get a spec in the format you want. I talked to Chris Erickson. He said he would prepare an earthwork spec and a soil management spec. He just needed to know the format. And that 2 weeks ago, I asked Christian to reach out to him to give him the format. And as we can see, it hasn't been done yet.
Oh, no, it's been done. Christian's been asking for it.
What's that again?
I think Christian's been asking for it.
We'll see. Okay. Another item that a number of people, including Ted and CHA and Skanska, are looking for additional services contracts or money for completion of the design, completion of what we're undertaking for a cost estimate to try to reconcile that. And before we go into that, I'd like to just go through a schedule a little bit of where we are in this check estimate. The estimate is due from T-Gas's estimator on the 12th of April. In the following week, and I believe it's the 18th and 19th, there's going to be a reconciliation between Skanska and T-Gas to reconcile that. And then we need, as a committee, to put some time up to allow about probably 2 4-hour meetings, Tom? That's what we're probably talking about?
Probably, yeah.
Easily.
On, on either Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday. I think someone said, and that's the 15 plus 7 is 22. That's 23 and 24, I think we decided yesterday. Is that doable for the committee?
And this is for value engineering. Yeah, make sure you give everybody the context on it.
Yes, but they will have information before, they'll get information after reconciliation. So that's why I thought Tuesday made more sense than Monday. Because the reconciliation between Skanska and T-Gas should occur on the 18th and 19th. And then the committee would be given that information to review and be able to discuss come Tuesday, Wednesday.
So Mark, this is Don White. CHA is developing a schedule, trying to get it out tomorrow, which will be a lot more detail over the next 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks of step by step by step on a daily basis, building committee meetings, when we need to meet to approve these things and go through the value engineering. My goal is to try and get that out by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay.
All the committee members.
Correct, that's what was asked for.
Yep.
And on that schedule has some key dates for things like color of panels for the pre-engineered metal building, things like that, correct?
Correct. I'll get it out in draft tomorrow and ask for any comments, and we're gonna review this starting next week.
Okay.
You're getting the schedule out tomorrow.
I will get the schedule out tomorrow.
So that people can see it.
I will have everything captured, things like, panel color. If I've missed something like that, just give me the feedback and I'll add those things to that schedule.
Okay. And the goal then is next week, we're looking at every major value engineering item, working with all of the partners to figure out, what needs to get designed or considered, what needs to get priced, what third-party consultants need to be involved, such that when the committee gets to the value engineering conversation on that week of the 21st or whatever, 22nd, whatever it is, we're in a position to be able to make decisions quickly.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So that everything is sort of queued up.
Should we let Dawn do some due diligence on this before we formulate a formal vote? Either Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday or Thursday, but whatever it is, they'll have a better knowledge of that after Tom's formulated this package that that Dawn has formulated this timetable. Do you think that makes sense, guys?
So Dante, this is really just a roadmap that I'm developing right now, and it'll list out all of the activities that need to happen over the next 6 to 8 weeks and dates we're going to target to make decisions. We're really going to be waiting on the estimate to be completed on April 12th by Skanska and MJ's team, and then the reconciliation the week after that we start applying the VE against that list.
Okay, so then when we have that information, then we can firm up our date that we can meet for those 2 big meetings. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's going to be at least 2 meetings.
That's fair, Dante.
Yep.
But
Okay,
what we're
thanks,
looking
guys.
for, what we're looking for at this point is for that week of the 22nd. Are there any days that just plain are not good for committee members where we would not have a quorum? We're targeting 23, 24, but if half of the committee can't make 24, then we need to shift. And we're just asking at this point, if there's any days in that week that do not work, no matter what. These are going to be long meetings, probably 3 to 4 hours.
I couldn't possibly make the Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday I could make, but Tuesday would definitely not work for me. I'm traveling with my family.
And I think we were talking about 1 to 3. or 1 to 4, correct?
For which meeting now?
Both meetings on the 23rd and 24th.
24th. 1 to 3 is only 2 hours.
So that's why I think we moved it to 12, and then someone said we want to go to 11. I'm trying to get the committee to give me some sense.
I would block out 2 4-hour sessions.
So that's 11 to
11 to 3.
11 to 3.
I'll just, yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll just throw in that on the Wednesday, I'm running a program at the senior center. I can be there maybe by noontime, start without me, but
What,
I can't be there much before that.
what if we go noon to 4?
I can do that.
Why don't I do this is send out a bit of a poll to each of the building committee members and just say, you know, here's what we're targeting. Tell me what doesn't work for you. And Mark, we still have a quorum, 8 or 9 people. We good?
Yes.
Okay.
7.
7, we're good. Okay, we'll do that.
And in fact, what I'd suggested is we go Tuesday, Wednesday, we would have a committee meeting on the Thursday at 7:30
Yep,
and finalize all of those decisions.
that's fine.
All right? So I'll ask for the wish of the committee now. I have potentially 18 items that we can discuss, but are potential alternatives to what the current design includes. I don't have costs for each of them, but we could go through and we can rank them so that we can provide to Skanska and T-Gas. These have high potential for being on the list of revisions. Would you like to go through those and we'll rate them, I'll say 1 to 5. We could rate them 1 to 3, 1 being no brainer, 3 being we need to consider it further.
I would definitely like to hear them. This is Anthony.
Okay, I figured you all would. All right.
With the idea, we don't have enough information to make a final decision, but we're trying to give some indication
Correct.
so that we know where to prioritize. Sounds great.
Correct. And we can do this if we can raise our hands, or people here in the room can just, it's kind of an open discussion. Okay. 1A and 1B is to reduce the CMU block exterior wall down to and replace it with a cementatious board, and the IMP, the metal panel, would come down to 8 inches above ground level around the entire building. So on the east side, it would be about elevation. It'll be 8 inches above the floor slab, which it puts you at 16.8 plus 8 inches. So 17 and change. On the west side, because the elevation changes the grade, it's more like 19.6. Anyone can want to throw out some numbers of 1 to 3 on that? And just to give you a sense, Skanska has given me a somewhat estimate of that. That could be almost $90,000 in savings.
I'm in strong support of that, as discussed before. So what's that, 3 or 1, Mark?
A 1.
Okay, 1.
Any other comments from the committee? Not hearing one.
It sounds like this one makes sense. Again, a lot of these, I think it'll be helpful to see the more detailed workup and.
Correct.
But like at first blush, this sounds like a good optimization. Doesn't impact program, saves us money. At the end of the day, probably makes sense.
And what it also does is it comes up later, is it simplifies the concrete from the footing up to the underside of the IMP panel. It's all in line now as opposed to having a brick shelf, and you don't have to form that in again. And it's just an 8-inch wall off the foundation. Much simpler detail. Okay, eliminate knee wall entrance and the canopy. So this is it, as you come out of the dressing rooms, there's a door there, or you come out of the lobby that had a little knee wall, a little seating wall along that whole arcade, I'll call it, and eliminate that knee wall. Portable benches could be put in there and resolve that. That's about a $25,000 deduct. Any comments?
Yeah, so this is Anthony, just kind of a more overall comment. It's a little hard to rank just because I'd like to see the whole, I can't really rank anything until I see a whole list. So if you had emailed the list you're looking at right now, that would have helped. And costs. I mean, we can do this in the absence of cost, but I am absolutely in favor of whatever allows us to build a building. But this is very hard to do without that detail. So
Okay.
take it all, take everything out if that's what it takes.
What I was trying to do, wait a second, Dante, 1 second. What I'm trying to do, Anthony, is get to a sense of the committee so that we can go back and give to the architect or the contractor. These are high priority being changed. So if there's design issues that need to be changed, they can get them at least in concept design so that we can get a real price to them, as opposed to just talking them in the Ethernet, if you will.
Okay.
All right. So just if you have a major, as we get further into this, we have a major disagreement that we don't want to do it. That's what I'm really trying to get to. Some of these here, these first, what I call day one, are pretty much no-brainer type issues that they don't impact program and they do end up with cost saving.
All right. So
all right.
If you don't hear from me again, I'm a 1 to 3 on everything.
Okay.
You'll hear me if I really object.
If what I want to really hear, what I really want to hear, Anthony, is when there's a 3. All right.
Okay. Got it.
Dante.
Okay, Mark, I think it would be helpful, since we've been privy to this during the working group, your recommendation, and I think we're pretty much in agreement for the people in this working group, your recommendation on that and your direction on you're in favor or you're not in favor, but because a lot of it is construction items that, like the wall, would impact how much they would impact the project and why you think it's a good measure. I think your recommendation on this and your direction and leadership would be helpful for the other members of this committee.
Okay, so from 1 through 12, it's what I'm proposing, which I just referred to as day one. Okay, so I'll include that, Dante, as we go through. Okay, remove PMB painted roof panels. We'll go with Galvaloon pricing, which is currently in the base, and that's about a $50,000 change. And I know we talked about it when we were sitting in the selectman's office, and there was kind of back and forth whether or not we wanted the roof painted or not. But that decision, Mike, has to be made by the 12th to the 19th of next month, correct?
Yes, if we'd like to include that into the PEMB package, which we're trying to keep on the rails. Yep.
Okay. Remove 5-foot wide canopy at south elevation. Now this one might be that is removing the entire canopy around the whole front of the building, which we discussed on February 19th with the architect and Skanska and CHA. And the intent was that appears to be a 1, in my opinion. Potential value is $225,000.
This is the one that Ted showed us a little bit of a visual on at the last
Correct.
committee meeting. Okay.
Correct.
Do we have Ted weigh in on that?
Sure. Anybody able to discuss?
Ted, what's your recommendation on that?
I think we should put a 1 on almost all of these.
Okay. I'm going to do these together, and 6A, 6B is reducing the concrete pavement. We can do it either halfway, which saves you about 40 grand, or you can do all of it and it saves you about 80 grand. So a pedestrian pavement probably is where we want to go. So I'm recommending a 1 for that.
Mark, can I just
go ahead
on that one? This is Mike Morrison. That is a swap. So the drawings currently show concrete, and this would just be swapping it to pavement. So you still have the same area of paved area. It's just swapping material. Just
correct. It's just a material change.
Is there opportunities to put concrete, at the thresholds of the door? Like, are there a few select areas where we'll put concrete?
I think that's one of those design details we want to get to. Agreed. Okay, eliminate the sign. For now, that's a 1. We don't know what it's even called yet. Replace interior ground plate block with CMU. We've discussed that a number of times. Danella's looking at where CMU block may want to be in on the interior. But right now, there is a cost difference between ground place block and painted CMU. So I think that's a 1. All right.
Was there a dollar amount with that? Mike?
It's relatively small.
Okay.
That one was to replace with paint, right? So that was just you're adding paint, but you're taking off the premium block, right? That's what that change represents.
Right. Okay, this one is just really the original drawing showed bleacher seating of 500 and change. And we brought it back to 225, so that comes out of the budget. But I think it's already in your budget, Mike, correct? It's really not a deduct.
That's not a change to program, right? Because again, we expect.
We already had assumed 225, so it's not. Remove one scoreboard and only have one that we already own. Another one can be added later on, whatever. Go on. A large one here, remove the translucent panels along the east and west side of the building. That's a relatively significant $170,000 delta. They can
Are
always.
you able to make you want to hear a comment on these?
Yes, please.
Okay, I would suggest, so this doesn't look like a warehouse. I would suggest we keep the panels on the west side of that building, so it looks appealing and we get some natural light in the building. We took a building down, we had all lit panels on the ceiling, but it provided natural light in the building. I think you come into a building that's completely dark with no lit panels is not a good thing, in my opinion. I would compromise it, not take it out of the east side, and then I would keep it on the west side when that's the side that's closer to Belmont Center. Is my opinion.
Okay, I'm gonna give that a 2. Does anybody else in the committee have a comment?
I do. Stephen Sala.
Steve Sala, 1 second. Steve?
I kind of agree with Dante. I think it's gonna look like a warehouse if we have no panels. I don't know if it's cheaper to put it at the south side above the entry. You're gonna have a nice visual look.
on electricity.
And, but I think we need to have some sort of windows somewhere.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anne Marie, I think it was.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Living in the neighborhood, I don't want this thing looking like a metal warehouse. I agree. We can probably give them up on the east side because it is partially blocked by the bleachers, the football bleachers. But definitely we need something on the west side just to make it look more like a nice building.
Great input. Okay,
Mark, Catherine Oates has her hand raised.
Catherine.
Hi, yes. I just
Catherine, you're not coming across.
also agree. I think it's light inside. I've been in enough rinks with no natural rink. They're very depressing. Okay, can you hear me?
Now.
Try it again.
Okay, just agree with Anne Marie and Dante on that.
Okay, so I'm gonna just label that a 2, so we can provide some direction.
Can we have some alternates on that then?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. A 2,
Put a couple alternates.
3 is no.
Yeah.
A 1 is yes. A 2 is let's look at it.
Give us some options on it. But I guess I'm specifically saying not just to look at it, but can we ask them to price specific alternatives?
Yes.
Because again, we
Does
have
it
to
make sense to do something similar like we're talking about with the pavement and do like a tiered?
That's what I'll get back to you. Correct. I'll get back to you on that. We'll keep it on the west. Yes, we'll come up with something and then re-present it to the committee. Okay, now we're going to day 2. These become 13 through 18. Okay. First is change the metal building structure from 2-line to 3-line and make it a low bay and take away the high bay. So the high bay between 2 and 3 goes away and the front end of the building looks identical to the back end of the building where the last 2 bays of the building are only 1 story. What this does, it would eliminate the area that potentially could be used as a mezzanine in the future. You'd have to build a mezzanine if you wanted it above the roof of the low rise. But that has some major pluses. So I think this is a 2 in my recommendation. We need some more study, but it's something to look at because I think it's a big change.
Mark, Frank French here. Did
Go
you
ahead.
say that you could bring the bay down height and still to be potential to build the mezzanine? It'd be more, obviously more intrusive, more costly later to do it, but it would still present an option to do it?
You'd want to design the columns for the one-story low rise to be able to carry columns in the future for the second-story mezzanine.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
What it does is it simplifies the roof system. Where the bump out is, the drainage would go from line 3 back to line 2, and then you slope the beam similar to, just like what we're doing at the north end, and we slope the beams from 1 back to 2, so all the drainage is now at 2.
Got it.
But we don't have this high bay, and you save all those, because right now it's a free span building from one side to the other. And what you're doing now is you have interior columns that make it simpler.
Yep.
All right? So we'll leave that as a 2.
It seems like we have to look at that, right?
Yep.
Because that could be a non-trivial amount of money too, right?
That is correct. And that's where I'm asked, that's where I want to take it back to Skanskas, because most of these are tied to the pre-engineered metal building. So he's going to have to talk to them for what we get back. All right? The next one is, I think, somewhat simpler. Let's assume the high bay is still there, but we're going to remove the bump out from along F line, which is the west side, from 2 to 3. What happens in that area, we have a column that kind of sits not in the middle of the lobby, but on the edge of the lobby at 2 line. And there's a bump out. So that column is really not a bump out because, yes, the glass is there, but also that roof in that area is very difficult to detail, and it hasn't been detailed yet, that spans from F line out to the next line where the windows are. By eliminating that eliminates that piece of, and I don't have a value in that, but I think that's probably a 1. Now, if we went back to what I just talked about in the low rise, it's simple to do because then you just have a column out at the very end. Not a big deal.
So it's hard to visualize this one,
No.
but this doesn't, without some drawings. But
Correct.
this sounds like something we should take a
2.
look at.
It's a 2.
It's a 2, it's worth exploring, and would it result in a smaller lobby area?
Yes.
Incrementally smaller.
I think it's 8 feet by 30 feet.
Okay, so again, probably a trade-off worth making, but that would be the quote-unquote program impact, is there'd be less space in that lobby.
Yeah, that, to be clear, that piece of the building has been detailed. It's all set in details. It would reduce the lobby and feel like a much smaller lobby. I think it should be a 1 in my recommendation if we're going to do this, but it will make an impact on the function of the building.
Yeah, from what I understood, Ted, that the structural beams from the engineered metal building people haven't resolved that yet. Is that correct, Mike?
So I think the shop drawings aren't in for review yet. So they're working north to south. So north structure is pretty much buttoned up. We should have that soon. The middle structure's in for review, but the south structure, there's still the opportunity to try to catch that in before they start detailing out that I mean, not a lot of time, but yes, is the answer to your question, but we'd have to going fast.
So we'll go 1, 2 on that one. Remove the arcade overhang from line 1 and 2. That means from the east side of the lobby all the way to the east side of the building, you remove the overhang, arcade overhang that is now protecting. Comments? Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? If you're looking at the front of the building, you have a lobby on the west side, which is glassed in. And on the right-hand side, all we have is an overhang roof that extends out, I don't know, 20 feet, Ted, plus or minus, and that roof would be removed. So
That's
the
right.
front of the
So
building
it's-
would just come straight down.
Right, so the exterior of the exterior program space, that would be, a covered outdoor area for people to, have activities on a day like today, would go away.
Correct.
What's your recommendation?
Mine is a 2.
And what is Ted's?
Well, for program reasons, I would say we shouldn't do it, but for budget reasons, I would say we should do it.
So Ted, how about a 2-3?
Let's take a look at it.
Janelle has her hand raised.
It'd be
Now-
helpful to see what that looks like too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one I'd like to see visually.
Yeah,
so-
gonna radically change the building.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, so Dan, that's what I'm trying to get to is these are ones that we would
Yeah, so I
reach
put
back
that.
out to Skanska and to
Two,
TGAS
three.
to get us some details of what this would look like.
Yeah, it seems
Right.
like a 2-3 to me.
Okay? Danelle,
This is Danelle Long. So I was going to speak to a previous couple items regarding the one we were just talking about. I do think we should study that more from a like aesthetic and how it affects the look of the building. Programmatically, I think we can make do with exterior without exterior programming, in that way. I do think we need to prioritize the interior programming because that is like built space that it'd be much harder to do later. And this is going back to the 2-3 bay of the future mezzanine space, the square footage of the lobby, and some of the other things that we're going to be seeing ahead in this discussion. I think for us to really understand, like, some of this is something we might want to pay for if it's appearing to be over budget or costly, because it's only going to be harder and more expensive to do later. And I do think some of these things do affect how the building, how are we getting 200 people out of the rink through the lobby to the exterior? How are, in some of the future things that we'll be talking about, like how are we accommodating program? And so with that said, I've also made a comment in the working group that some of these changes are bigger changes that will take time to change. And we are seeing what our month-to-month rate is for extended CM fees, extended design fees. And if we are making a change to remove something for, I've just used this number, to $200,000 savings, and yet it's going to take us, in all reality, 2 months to make that change, which will cost us $200,000. Like, what are we really doing? And I want to keep seeing us making steps forward that put the money into the building. And so in all of these, I want to see a time associated with any of these changes. So we can factor that in as well, because in all of this, in this discussion, I want us to be in the position to say there is a reason we might need to pay for something, and that it should be included.
Yeah, Janelle, I think that the time piece is really key, and I agree with most of what you're saying. And while I respect the open questions and the need to study whether there's a cowl wall or translucent panel on the west side or the south side or the east side, that all adds a lot of time. We've got a lot of study to do and a lot of meetings, and then weeks and weeks go by. So I think, we're in this kind of cycle of studying, cutting, adding, studying, cutting, adding, and we're not moving forward. So I agree with your sentiments entirely.
good point.
Part of that schedule that Don spoke about earlier that we're developing will include just that, Ted and Janelle, and to the committee. The anticipated additional time to put that on the street, to do the design, to make it a reality.
I think if we put a number associated with each cost of savings and we get that out to the whole committee, I think everybody can make an intelligent decision on this very, very quickly. A lot of these items, and I'm sorry that the whole committee hasn't had privy to them, but a lot of these items have been looked at and looked at and looked at, and it's time for us I think someone said earlier, stop kicking it down the road. It's time for us to make some hard decisions so we can move this project along and we can, in fairness to everybody that's involved here, you know, we need to make these decisions and we need to make them pretty real soon. Real soon. We don't need 2 more weeks to figure out if we're going to do these things. I think some of them are cut and dry, some of them are a little more complicated. But I think it's time that we make the decision because it's hanging up the project and we need to move the project along. So my recommendation to the whole committee is, to Anthony's point, get well educated on some of these things as soon as possible, and then we can all convene and make an intelligent decision on if it's a yes or a no, because we've had these decisions in our lap for a while.
So Dante, that's what I asked. I had a discussion yesterday with Mike, and Mike is going to work with his cost estimator because most of these items are related to the pre-engineered metal building. And he's going to have his cost estimator try to put a order of magnitude on each of these and be able to present those at the meeting on the 23rd and 24th, when we have a better reconciled budget and we understand where we are in the overall budgetary process item. As we said a couple of weeks ago, we don't want to end up cutting things out of a building that we don't have a problem with a budget issue. So we only want to do cutting if we need to. So until we get that reconciled budget, Dante, I don't think we can, but I'd like to have a value so we can, as you just said, we can make an educated decision, but it's in that week that we have to make those decisions to get this thing moving.
Yeah, I think some of the ones that we feel strongly about cutting, I don't think we should use that exercise to get a cost on that, because I think like with the walls and some of those things that are cut and dry, just the questions on the 2 and the 3, I think that would be where we put our energy, because I think on the ones, there were some of them were very simple, but the ones that I don't think we need numbers on that. I mean, we certainly need numbers on them. I don't think we really need to study that. It's the impact, as Danella just mentioned, on the architectural design, how Dan mentioned it too. Now we're changing the building. Those are the ones that are really all tricky for all of us. And I appreciate that. But all I'm saying is whatever we need to do, we need to move, because, you know, I appreciate everybody trying to do the due diligence on this, but we need to make some decisions.
Okay. Just along those lines, I know, Don, this may come out in your process, but it sounded from Mike that there were a few decisions regarding the pre-engineered metal building that perhaps can't wait until April 22nd.
That's correct. But
So
most of those are, no, they're not. You're correct.
So we should probably call those out, Don, and again, figure out in this schedule. I think we all want to have a good view of where we are in terms of the budget. To your point, no sense in cutting things we don't need to cut. We need to have that clarity that we'll get that week of the 22nd. But if anything needs to happen before then to get the pre-engineered metal building, we should have that meeting scheduled in a process to make those decisions. Because we can't let that delay, right?
But the problem is we don't have the number.
I understand we won't have the number, but some of them
end up being delayed a week, and so be it. It's going to have to happen.
Okay, so again, that may be the right thing, but then to Danelle's point, if that ends up introducing downstream costs, so, you know, there could be a situation where we take a look at how far the metal building comes down.
Correct.
And we look at that and say, listen, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's almost, there's no program loss. It's going to save money. Like, let's just do that. Why are we even?
That's in the pre-engineered metal building design today.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm getting to is if there's a few pre-engineered metal building decisions that are just things that we can do, no-brainers, like let's figure out what that process is to get those done so that we're not waiting and delaying things.
Got it.
Makes sense.
Okay, we got that. So
Anthony has his hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. This is
We
Anthony.
can't see the hands raised in here because of the way the recording is. It's the way the record button is on top of the hand. We can't see it, so.
Yeah, I remember from being in there last meeting. I just wanted to, I mean, I agree with Danelle, and I had this concern about the fact that all these decisions dragging out adds cost. You know, we spent multiple weeks way back just debating 5-foot cowl wall, 4-foot cowl walls, and on one side is on both sides. we needed to have a reconciled number months ago, because without that, none of this is helpful. I mean, it's helpful in that we'll be ready to make some real decisions when that number comes, but that's the delay. That's the real delay. And I can't make any intelligent comments other than sounding grumpy right now, without a number. So I'm glad to hear what's on this list, and I'd love to make decisions, but I cannot do that without, I don't know whether we're trying to save $100,000, hundreds of millions. I don't know what that number is. And so none of this it's not easy for me to comment on any of it. I'd love to keep 100% of it if we could, but it seems like we should have had a better reconciliation months ago. I'm very frustrated about that. Thank you.
I think we all are in the same boat, Anthony. It was when the February 15th drawings came out, or the budget came out on February 15th, that then we decided we needed a reconciled budget. And that's when we went down that road, because anyway. We'll have numbers soon. And I'll give you the last one here is remove the entire lobby from 1 to 2. So you enter this rink through a set of doors similar to what you entered into prior to this not having a lobby. Comments, Mr. French?
Frank French, I mean, I see that as a 3, but
okay, no,
but I mean, I guess a 2. I mean, again, I get to Anthony's point, not to reiterate it, it's like, what are we chasing for dollars? But
I don't know, but it's.
I know, but that seems like would be a big loss.
That would be a big loss.
Yeah,
I agree. Stephen solid.
Okay.
Just gonna make it crowded and constricted and a mess.
It's not what we want to build. It's not. Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
Just to add to that's a real, well, it's a real 3 unless we have to do it. You can't really control access. So all the things that we couldn't do in the old rink to make sure that if you have something that's fee-based, that you can collect fees, so you can get people in and out in an organized fashion. It would be, I would love to do whatever we can to keep a lobby.
Agreed. All I tried to do, Anthony, was come up with as many things as I could do without cutting away. I didn't remove, if you notice, I didn't remove the ice surface. That was coming next. But it was things that you could essentially, at least, but I'm getting a sense from the committee what is important and what is not, and that's what we needed. That's the discussion for today, and then we'll
Is there a version, and again, I say this not having any desire to do this, but just thinking about realistically kind of what's involved. Is there a version where we make the lobby meaningfully smaller, but still preserve a lobby? Or do we end up in a situation where that just wouldn't be cost effective?
I don't know. That's why we'll put it as a 3 or 2 or 3, figure out what we got.
Okay.
And until but these, if you notice, we're sort of in a sequence of keep cutting, is from top to bottom is what do we got? I was trying to put them in a sequence. So I think I've got a lot of input from you, and thank you very much to the committee. But as Dante said, we've got to get this thing moving, and we've got to make decisions over the next 3 to 4 weeks to make sure we get this on track again. So with that, unless someone has another final comment, I'd like to ask the 3, I don't want to call them vendors, but CHA, T-Gas, and Skanska have got to start to working together in a more cooperative manner. As you heard today, I don't have this, I don't have that. What people need to do, of any of those 3 entities, if you don't have something, please raise your hand. If you're not getting something, then you can come back to the committee. But this thing of getting here, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't put this in the street, that can't happen anymore. The OPM is representing the town to get this thing moving. We hired a CM to help move this forward, and we have an architect. Right now, as you heard today, committee, and thank you for not interrupting as we went, this is just not the way the process should work. Yeah, it's messy, and yeah, sometimes you have to make sausages, and it's not easy. but this one is just unbelievable that we don't have three people pulling the oars in the same direction. Would you please try to figure out how to do that, and then we can move forward. Thank you.
Second that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Do you want to do
Public input.
public?
No.
Okay.
I'll move adjournment.
Thank
Second.
you, Anthony.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.